Hello everybody and welcome to Culture Speak, the art of talking about work. And this is the first of a 7-part series where I'm going to really focus on those practical things that you can do to better talk about culture wherever it is that you work. Now, I know the first thing that you're thinking is, why 7? Couldn't he have just rounded it up to 10 or rounded it down to 5? I probably could have done, but when I designed it at 1 o'clock one morning, it came out as 7. And so we're going to stick with that. Who knows, I might even throw a bonus 3 episodes at the end to make it 10 and render everything that I've talked about before useless. But for now, it's going to be 7. And in this first video, I'm actually going to provide you with the context. Why is it important? So let's start with the very basic thing, because this is the thing that people struggle with the most sometimes, is what actually is culture. And there are a number of different definitions, all right? But culture is the shared values, behaviors, and practices which shape an organization's work environment. An organization's work environment. And this will become clearer shortly when I talk about the difference between what the organization says is its culture and what the subcultures actually do. And so shared values, these are the things that we hold to be true. The behaviors, these are the things that we expect within this organization. If you work for a sales organization, it's very different than if you're an athlete on a sports team, than if you work in a hospital, for example. And practices, so what are those things that we do day in, day out to actually get work done? So that's the definition of culture, the shared values, behaviors, and practices. Now, if you're looking for the definition of purpose, vision, values, all of those kinds of things, head over to the blog, colindllis.com/blog, because that's where you'll find the definition of all of those. I wrote a blog recently that laid out exactly what all of those things are, because there's some confusion there. But this series is very much going to focus on the language that you can use to talk about how you feel, and culture is very much a feeling. It's right here. Culture, it's the thing that you feel first thing in the morning when you wake up. It's the thing that you feel during your working day when you're on your own, or when you're with your colleagues, or when you're apart from your colleagues. It's the thing that you feel when you celebrate success. It's the thing that you feel when you're overwhelmed by the different priorities. And the thing that you need to realize, and I'm going to re-emphasize this as we go through, is you get the culture that you choose to build. So as an organization, if you put no time, thought, effort into the continual evolution of culture, so it's not a one-off exercise, culture is perpetual. So if you don't do those things, then it eventually will stagnate. I'm going to talk about what the definition of stagnation is in the next episode. And so you get the culture that you choose to build. So if you're looking for a continually vibrant culture, you always have to be working on it. Now, it doesn't necessarily cost like $10 million or whatever it is, but there is a commitment of time and money in order to maintain that. And again, I'll provide that definition as we go through the series. And so once you understand this is what culture is, shared values, behaviors, practices, and that we get the culture that we choose to build, at that point, you're at the start line, where there's usually a recognition, right, we have to do something. Now, that's not the way that most organizations approach it. Usually they'll either do an engagement survey and the score will be not what they expected. They might be merging with another company. If you're a sports team, the results might not be where they need to be. There's a number of different factors. And so usually you get to the start line where somebody somewhere says, we need to do something. We need to change the culture. And so in order to get kind of that sustained, vibrant culture that I was talking about, there's 3 things that are required. And it doesn't matter what kind of organization you are, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, it doesn't matter what country you live in. These 3 things are consistent if you want this sustained, vibrant culture where you're constantly producing results. You know, as my friend Kath Bishop wrote about it in a book called The Long Win, you're at the start of the race, in inverted commas, and the race never ends. You know, her book is called The Long Win, to really indicate that actually culture is something that's perpetual. You're always going around the track, but you've got to start somewhere, right? So these 3 C's, the first one is committed executive support. And so there has to be commitment at the top table, in inverted commas, that this is important, we're going to do this, we're going to commit time, money, effort, and actually as leaders, we are going to be the role models for this new refreshed culture that we're building. So that's the first thing. The second C is capable managers. Middle managers are the difference between success and failure in any organization. And so what we want to do is to make sure that they understand what culture is, that they know how to build it, that they know how to talk about it. And I often find that most people that engage in my content either read the blogs, listen to the podcasts, and thank you everybody for your support and your comments. I really do appreciate them. They're often in middle management layer, because they receive no training on how to do culture. So, the forward-thinking ones, that's you, go looking for content and say, okay, well, kind of how can I educate myself? And then the third thing, so committed executive supports, capable managers, and then a common language. So culture is something that we have to be able to talk about, right? If we're going to sustain this sense of vibrancy, and let's say we actually go and define our culture, if we're going to sustain it, we have to be able to talk about it. We have to be able to provide feedback and these kinds of things. And so those three C's, they exist, like I said, in any organization, in any culture. If you're looking to change your conditions, those three things need to be present. If you're looking to maintain your conditions, those three things need to be present. And I mentioned kind of at the start the importance of subcultures is, yes, we're defining the shared values. Yes, we're defining the behaviors and the practices. But really, middle managers are key, and why we need capable managers is they're the people that create the culture day to day. Now, they don't actively create it. Culture belongs to everybody. It's the sum of everybody. Everybody gets a say in culture. It doesn't matter whether you've been there 5 minutes, 50 years. You get a say in culture. But middle managers shape it. So we have the individual, the team, the department, the division, the organization. That's generally the structure of an organization, but culture is built at a team level. You take a sports team, yes, of course, you have the actual team that plays on the pitch or whatever, it might be on the court, wherever it is. But then you've also got smaller teams around them. You may have a medical team, you'll have your corporate team, you'll have a marketing team. And every one of those has got a responsibility to create something that's aligned to the shared values, behaviors, and practices. So hopefully you can now start to see how all of these things fit together. It is like a jigsaw. It's not that complicated, but you do have to think about, well, what piece goes where. But every one of those subcultures needs to talk about culture in the same way. Otherwise, what you end up with is one of two things. You either end up with silos where just everybody's a bit rubbish at doing culture, right? And they don't really speak to each other and they don't really know how to speak to each other. Or you end up with cults. Now, cults are people who understand culture and they just want to create something really awesome for themselves. Sometimes it's aligned to the organization's values. Sometimes it's not. It's better when it is because we tolerate the cult more if it's aligned to our values. But sometimes it just goes off and does its own thing. And if you're a manager, you're like, I want to be able to do what they're doing. That looks great. Or else, what are they doing? And I had that quite a few times in my career. I must admit, when I look back, I did create the odd cult every now and again. But this was in the days way before I understood about culture and what it looked like, particularly from an enterprise perspective. And an enterprise perspective is how everything fits together. That's what we mean by that. So, why is a common language around culture important? So, three things. So, feedback. So, we have to be able to provide feedback in the moment as to where we feel we are right now in order to take corrective action such that we can get where we need to be. The second thing is it provides accountability. So if we've made an agreement, remember you get the culture that you choose to build. If we've made an agreement that this is our culture and someone's either acting or behaving in a way that runs counter to the culture, it becomes easy to hold each other to it because we've made the decision and said, hey, that's not what we said that we would do. We said that, we would be inclusive. We said that we wouldn't look at phones in meetings. We said that we wouldn't talk over the top of people. We said that we would listen. All right. So that's why that language is important, because we're able to say, we said, we agreed. And then the last thing in it, it's a reminder. It's a reminder that yes, as individuals, we're powerful, but as a team, we can be really successful. So it's that reminder that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, and having that common language, it just makes it easy to talk about the conditions that we're in. And what that then does is it frees up our headspace to actually do the work. And then we can kind of focus on what's important day to day. And what's important day to day is us bringing our best selves to work. So that's being emotionally intelligent. And for the organization to create a level of engagement to keep people interested in the work, and then for people to engage themselves in their work, such that we've got these two observable characteristics day to day of what really good culture looks like. And this is going to be the common thread throughout this series, is these two factors: emotional intelligence and engagement. Now, emotional intelligence is you understanding yourself. It's recognizing who you are, what kind of personality that you have. It's you recognizing the emotions that you feel and then being able to moderate those emotions as you feel. It's that thing, have you ever felt anger? And sometimes you just want to say stuff, but you stop yourself. That's emotional intelligence. That's you going, I feel something and I want to say something, but I'm not going to. You're really moderating. You know how to control your emotions. It's a really good thing. And the other thing about emotional intelligence is when we're emotionally intelligent, it allows us to build really strong relationships. And throughout this series, I'll talk about the importance of that. Now, engagement, and I wrote about this recently, so go and seek that out on the blog, is a two-way street. So yes, the organization needs to provide the environment, pay, remunerations, conditions. They need to make sure they've got policies and processes, all of the good stuff that you need that provides the foundation to do good work, workspace, all of these kinds of things. The organization needs to create those conditions. But then you, as an individual, also have to engage yourself. You have to show up on time, ready to do your work. You have to be connected to the organization's vision and what they're trying to do. You have to get better at your job under your own steam. You can't always look to the organization to provide that. You have to be prepared to take feedback and to give it. Also, you have to show up, and when you see something that isn't quite right or not working in the way that it should, you have to speak up and say something. So those two factors, emotional intelligence and engagement, they really shape the kind of culture that you can have at any one time. And so over the next 5 episodes, I'm going to talk about each of those kind of cultures that you see day to day. Now, at any stage, you can have a guess. You can take a quiz. I've got a quiz, www.5culturesquiz.com. You can jump on there. You can answer a bunch of questions, and it'll give you an answer as to where you are right now. Which is great because it'll send you a report, and you've got all of this written down. But actually, if we want to learn, I think it's important that you kind of watch these videos, make some notes. If you've got any feedback, of course, I would love to hear that. I'd love to hear where you are right now, because this is really then embedding the learning. And then this is a language that then you can share with other people. Now, I would really encourage you, if you think others on the team would be interested in this, if you want to create a common language across your own team, come together, watch these videos on YouTube, listen to the podcast, and come together and share that knowledge and talk about what you've learned and what you see and what you don't see. For those of you who've been following me for a while, my goal is to really educate people on what culture is, such that you can all build fantastic places to work. That's my goal. I'm hoping through this series that you will get that knowledge. Okay, that's the end of part 1.